Some invitations should never be accepted. But by the time you realize it, it's already too late. Ethan Carter never believed in ghosts. Superstitions were for the weak-minded, he thought. But that was before the letter arrived. It came on a cold November evening, in an old wax-sealed envelope. No return address. Just his name written in ink that looked too dark to be normal. Inside was a short, handwritten message. You are cordially invited to Blackwood Manor for one night. A matter of great importance must be discussed. Do not be late. Midnight is the deadline. No signature. No details. Just midnight. Ethan frowned. Blackwood Manor. He had heard the name before, an abandoned estate deep in the woods, shrouded in urban legends. People whispered that those who entered never came back. He should have ignored it. He should have burned the letter and gone to sleep. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. By 11:45 p.m., he was driving through the mist-covered road, the headlights barely cutting through the thick darkness. The trees stood unnaturally still, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Then, in the distance, the gates of Blackwood Manor appeared. Rusted, twisted, and slowly, they creaked open on their own. A cold wind whispered through the trees. It almost sounded like a warning. Ethan ignored it. Biggest mistake of his life. The moment he stepped inside, the air turned thick, suffocating, wrong. Blackwood Manor had been abandoned for decades, yet it didn't feel empty. Dust coated the furniture. The chandeliers swayed slightly, though there was no breeze. But what disturbed Ethan the most were the portraits lining the hallway. They were all watching him. A massive grandfather clock stood in the foyer. 11:58 p.m. Then, a door slammed shut somewhere deep inside the house. Ethan spun around, his heart hammering. Hello? No response. Just a faint whisper, too soft to understand. A chill crawled down his spine. He took a cautious step forward when... Dong! The clock struck midnight. And the whispers grew louder. A door at the end of the hallway creaked open on its own. Ethan hesitated before stepping inside. A massive dining table was set in the center of the room, covered in fresh, steaming food, as if someone had just prepared it. A single empty chair sat at the head of the table. The whispers stopped. Then, a voice. Sit. Ethan's breath caught. The voice wasn't normal, it was deep, layered, as if many voices spoke at once. His feet refused to move, but the chair slid back on its own. Something wanted him to sit. A shiver crawled up his spine. The candlelight flickered. And then, he saw them. Reflected in the wine glass. Figures. Pale, hollow-eyed people standing behind him. Watching. Waiting. The voice spoke again. We've been waiting for you, Ethan Carter. He turned, but the room was empty. Only the reflection showed them. His hands trembled. What do you want? The whispering voices merged into one. We need you. To replace him. A cold gust of wind swept through the room, sending plates crashing to the floor. The chandelier flickered violently. Ethan's stomach twisted. Replace who? No answer. But the chair at the table was no longer empty. A man sat there now. Or, what was left of him. His skin was gray and sunken. His lips were stitched shut. And his eyes were missing. And then, it smiled. Ethan ran. Down the hallway, past the portraits that now screamed silently, their mouths stretched in horror. The house was shifting. The front door was no longer where it had been. The whispers followed him. Footsteps chased him. Then, a cold hand grabbed his shoulder. He screamed. But when he turned, there was nothing there. And then he saw it. The grandfather clock. It now read 11:58 p.m. Time was reset. A horrifying realization hit him. He was never supposed to leave. The door behind him creaked open. He turned back to the dining room. The chair was empty again. The whispers faded. And then, he saw the note. The same one he had received earlier, lying on the table. But this time, it had his handwriting. And below it, in red ink, the clock struck midnight again. The door slammed shut. The candlelight flickered. And Ethan Carter was never seen again. So tell me, if you received an invitation with no sender, would you still go? Think twice. Some doors, once entered, never let you leave.